This is section 9.6. We are solving rational equations. So just to recap what we've done in the last couple of sections, we have multiplied and divided in the first section. In section 2, 9.2, we added and subtracted rational equations, and today we're going to solve rational equations. Tomorrow we are taking a quiz over section 9.2. Okay, that's what we just graded all those assignments on. Can you add and subtract rational equations? Huh? Yep, that means you'll have to come in your advisory ticket. Okay. Yep. Wait, hold on. Yep. You can take it today. You want to take it right now? Let's do it often. Come into advisory tomorrow. Okay, you can do it. This is section 9.6, solving rational equations. All right, let's get started. We need to solve this equation and check your answers. Okay, so go ahead and copy this down, and we'll talk about a few things before we get started. So looking at my denominator, what value of x is going to make the denominator 0? -3. Off to the side, go ahead and write that down. X cannot equal -3, because if x is -3, obviously it's going to be 0, isn't it? I always start with that. That way when I get an answer, if it's -3, I know it's not going to work. Okay? Hopefully I'll get something different. Alright, so to solve this equation, we're going to have to clear out these fractions. And the easiest way to do that is to find our least common multiple. So remember when we added and subtracted rational expressions in the last section, we got a common denominator. Well, what would be our common denominator here? Between 6 and 18, what would be your common denominator? Not the factor. Common denominator would be 18. Okay? And I also would need to have an x plus 3, wouldn't I? So what I want you to do is we're going to multiply the entire equation by my least common multiple. By that. Okay? I'm making it, if I was to get a common denominator, I would have used 18, and I would have needed one of those x plus 3's. So we're going to multiply every single term by 18 parentheses x plus 3. For this first couple, I'm going to write it all out. You may not need to do this when you're working through the problems on your own. All right, so what I'm taking this 4 over x plus 3, and I'm taking it times my least common multiple, but it's outside. Just distributing. Plus 5/6 times 18 x plus 3 equals 23 over 18 times 18 parentheses x plus 3. At this point? Okay, so I want you to look at what we can't cross off. This is all, they're all multiplying, so we're able to cross off those x plus 3's in that first term, right? What am I left with? Well, I'm left with 4 times 18. What is 4 times 18? 64, is that right? Well, I'm sorry. Yes, 72 sounds better. Not equals, plus sign. Plus, in the second term, 18 and 6 can simplify, can't we? 18 and 6 are both divisible by 6. So 3 times 5 is 15. Still have the x plus 3. equals, the 18s will cancel out. So we have 23 and in parentheses x plus 3. Our job then would be to solve this equation. We could solve something like this. Let's distribute and solve. 15 times x is 15x. 15 times 3 is 45. 23 times x, 23x. 23 times 3,
69.
now add our like terms. 72 plus 45. 117 is correct. Equals, no like terms over here. I'm going to subtract 23x. So 15x minus 23x, negative 8x. Subtract 117 from both sides. So 69 minus 117 is negative 48. We'll divide by negative 8. X equals 6. So at this point I want to check my answer. I want to make sure that 6 is the right answer. If I put 6 back in for x, 6 plus 3 is 9. So this fraction right here is really 4 ninths. Is 4 ninths plus 5 sixths 25 eighteenths? Well, let's check it on our calculator. Four ninths plus 5 sixths. Fraction is 23 eighteenths. So that just confirms that we do have the right answer. Now, we said initially that x could not equal negative 3. That wasn't an issue, but if x was negative 3, that's what we got as our answer, there would be no solution because it didn't work. Let's try another one. 2 divided by x plus 3 plus 3 over 2 equals 9/10. What value of x would make our denominator equal to 0? Again, negative 3 would. So I'm going to just off to the side I'm going to write x cannot equal negative 3. So if I was to get a common denominator amongst these three fractions, what would the common denominator be, the least common multiple? 10 and an x plus 3. So we're going to have to multiply every fraction by that common denominator. So 2 over x plus 3. We have 10 x plus 3 plus 3 over 2 times common denominator. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify. In the first fraction, I have the x plus 3's that are going to cancel out. So I'm left with 2 times 10, or 20. In the second fraction, I can simplify that 2 and 10. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. So 3 times 5 is 15. On the other side of the equal sign, the 10s will cancel, so I have a 9 and an x plus 3. Once you get past this first part, I think you guys can solve this equation with no trouble. Okay? Go ahead and distribute and solve. Okay, we want to get x by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and add my like terms. 20 plus 45 is 65. Subtract 9x. 15 minus 9 is 6x. Subtract 65 at the same time. 27 minus 65. Negative 38. Divide by 6. Negative 38 divided by 6. We don't want a decimal, okay? I want an exact answer, so please go to math and fraction. Negative 19/3 is correct. And again, you could check your answer. You could plug it back in, and it should equal 9/10 when you put negative 19/3 in. How about this one? 7/12 plus 9 divided by x minus 4 equals 55/48. If we were to get a common denominator, what would it be? Time out. What can x not equal, first of all? 4. If we get 4 as our answer, we know we've done something wrong or there's no solution. Now, if we were to get a common denominator, what would we use? 48 and x minus 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and distribute. So after you have distributed, go ahead and try to simplify here. I can simplify 48 and 12. 12 goes into 12 once, into 48 4 times. So I have 7 times 4, 28. And then in parentheses, I have x minus 4. You could go ahead and distribute right there if you wanted to. Plus, I cancel out my x minus 4. So in the second term, I have 9 times 48. 9 times 48 is 432. Equals, I can cancel out my 48s here in the third term. After I have distributed, now I'm going to solve my equation. 28 times 4 is 112. Negative 112 plus 432 is 320. Add 220 to both sides. I'm also going to go ahead and subtract 28x. just solving equations. We can do this. 320 plus 220 is 540 equals 55 minus 28. 55x minus 28x. 7x. We'll divide by 27. 540 divided by 27. I'm assuming you guys can distribute and solve an equation like what I've done in red down. Okay, I'm kind of going through that quickly because you guys should know that this way on for sure. Let's do one where we might have a quadratic equation involved. Let's do this one. Go ahead and copy this down, please. 2x divided by x plus 5 minus x squared minus x minus 10 over x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 3 divided by x plus 3. I want to figure out what values of x will make the denominator 0. Well, with the first term, what's going to make x or make the denominator 0? Negative 5. The last term? Negative 3. So I know that x cannot equal negative 5 and x cannot equal negative 3. Let's factor this middle term. Are there factors of 15 that add to 8? What are they? 5 and 3. So x plus 5, x plus 3. That's not going to change these values of x's, are they? Or is it? X cannot equal negative 5 and x cannot equal negative 3 still applies. Okay, so if we were to get a common denominator in this problem, what would we use? What do we need? That's right, an x plus 5 and an x plus 3. So let's go ahead and distribute that x plus 5 and x plus 3 to each of those terms. Now my numerator there in that middle term, I could go ahead and factor, or I could just leave it. I'm thinking ahead. Aren't the x plus 5s and the x plus 3 is going to cancel out anyway? So factoring I don't think would be help. I don't think it'll help any, so I'm just going to leave it. And the denominator, I'm going to go ahead and leave that in factored form as x plus 5, x plus 3. Now let's simplify what we can. I can cross off these x plus 5s here and here. To save me a step, is it okay if I go ahead and distribute that 2x here in this step? 2x times x, 2x squared, 2x times 3, 6x. For the middle term, I know the x plus 5s and the x plus 3s are going to cancel. Do I have anything to distribute here? Yes. What do I need to distribute? Negative 1 right here. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that. I have negative x squared plus x plus 10. On the other side of the equal sign, the x plus 3s are going to cancel out. So I can distribute this 3. 3x plus 15. Okay, now we've got a quadratic equation to solve. X squared minus x squared is x squared. 6x plus x is 7x. Plus 10 equals 3x plus 15. Okay, let's move all the terms over to the left-hand side. We'll subtract 3x. At the same time, I can subtract 15. So I have x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. How can we solve this? Yeah, we can factor. What factors of negative 5 add to 4? Negative 5 and 1. So I'm going to factor this as x plus x minus 5. No, sorry, x plus 5 and x minus 1. Now set each factor equal to 0. So x plus 5 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. So x is negative 5 and x is 1. Why not? At the very beginning, remember we said that x could not equal negative 5. You see that? One of our answers appeared to be negative 5. We can't use it. It cannot be one of our answers. Please put an x on over the top of x equals negative 5. Now x equals 1 is okay. It's allowed, right? As long as it's not negative 5 or negative 3. So x equals 1 is our only answer there. I've got one more I need to do with you. This will be our last one. Here we have 2 divided by z plus 1 minus 1 over z minus 1 equals negative 2 over z squared minus 1. What values of z are going to make my denominator equal to 0? 1 and negative 1. X cannot equal 1, or z cannot equal 1, and z cannot equal negative 1. Now if I was to factor this equation here, this expression here, x squared minus 1, I would factor using difference of squares. Like that, z plus 1, z minus 1. So if I was to get a common denominator, what would I use? Z plus 1, z minus 1. So let's distribute that z plus 1, z minus 1 throughout. Alright, so let's start canceling stuff out here. Of course I can cancel out my z plus 1s. So I have the 2 and I have the z minus 1. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that. 2z minus 2. For the second term I can cancel out the z minus 1s. And then I'll distribute my negative 1. So I have negative z minus 1 equals, I can cancel out the z plus 1s and the z minus 1s there and there. All I have left is negative 2. Now we'll solve this equation. 2z minus z is z, and negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3 equals negative 2. We'll add 3 to both sides. Z equals 1. Won't work, will it? Because if we let z be 1, that means my denominator, one of the fractions, is going to be 0, and we can't have that. So if z does not equal 1, then we have no solution. There's no other answer. So just simply write no solution. Alright, that's where I'm going to stop for today. We are solving rational equations. Your homework for today is out of your book. I think these problems take up a lot of room. So if you're planning to write down the problems at a time, give yourself plenty of room as you write them down. There are 8 questions for homework tonight. We're on page 600. We're doing numbers 1 through 8.